All right, theoretically, we're recording. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about today was something called pseudocode. And I don't know if in any of your, I bet you can see it better if I turn the projector on, right? It'll come up. I'm not sure if any of the other professors talked to you about pseudocode or not, but it's something I've experienced since way back in the 80s. And it's a good way to develop, especially if you're working on a team, some of the code that you want to work with. So, really, what you're doing is you're roughing out your code. You can start with simple English. That's usually the best way to do it. And you're describing how you are going to develop the code. Start at the beginning, run through the end. Now, when it starts to get complicated with different class objects and so on, the pseudocode can help you step through all of those areas and make sure all your relationships are working together correctly before you even write the first true line of code. The way I use it, and I'll do this even on simple scripts that I'm writing for some of the equipment over in the Fab Lab. I'm going to describe each phase of what my script or program is going to do. I'm going to do it in English and try and get a feel for what it's going to accomplish. If you're doing a major code development, it's a good guide for you. In fact, and I'll use the FAA because it's my most recent example. We even did peer reviews on pseudocode, going through and looking at what each one of the team members was going to design in their part of the coding project. And we talk about the pseudocode and debate whether the approach was what was needed by the specs, and then we go from there. By the way, make sure you're in class next week. Hopefully, you all will be in class next week. I've got some sample contract information to bring in and to see how you would have to go through that contract information to determine what kind of code you're going to write. But we'll talk about that next week. Again, it's good in peer reviews. So just read through this real quick. Don't take notes. The slide will come back up in a minute. But this is Lab 3's assignment. A friend's asked you to develop a prototype tracking system for his new pie shop. All right, and we're going to look at the prices of the pie and the coffee and the ice cream that they serve. And we're going to look at trying to make like a simple cash register, if you will. So if we take this and we put it into pseudocode, well, the first thing we'd want to do is probably design our variables. So we'd want to design the items that are for sale, and then we'd want to define the cost for each item, two separate variables. All right. So then we have to come up with some method, probably using the code that we looked at in Chapter 7 to record the prices of the objects that an individual purchases, and not only to record what they have and the cost, but also determine what the total cost would be. And then as we close out the program, this is a one-time event. That's all we're looking for right now. We're going to print out on the screen the items that were purchased, what the cost of the item was, and then the total cost. We're not going to figure tax in, so don't worry about that. So that would be the pseudocode that we would write. Now, I'm not going to ask you to write pseudocode today, but starting next week when we get into Chapter 8 and we start talking about functions, which we'll do for 2 weeks, I want you to start to work with pseudocode. So that'll be the part of next Thursday's lab assignment. So that's what we're looking at. It's a really good tool to work with. I don't know how many programmers I've run into that say, oh, I'm a big boy. I don't need to use pseudocode. That's a bunch of BS. Anytime you can sit there and plan out your code and know where you're going, never know when you're going to get hit by a car or Sputnik falls out of the sky and wipes you out. Somebody's going to have to pick up your code project. So if you got some pseudocode there, it's going to help. Besides, it'll be part of your grade next week. So here's the exercise for today. Go ahead and take a look at it. Same as last week, if you would print out your script and the results. This one you may have to do on 2 separate pages. Go away. On 2 separate pages, which is fine. Just make sure your name's on each page. Use the snippet tool as we talked before. If you have any questions, come up and ask me. Please do your own work. And when you're done, go away. Have fun.